Welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Why, hey there, my fabulous listener. Welcome to episode 231 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you, as always, for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there, and I do appreciate you making my podcast today one of them. I have a great guest, and we are going to talk about, does work-life balance exist, as well as heaps of other amazing conversations as well on well-being and boundaries and all sorts of things. But if you're enjoying this podcast, I'd love you to take a screenshot and share it on your socials and tag me, because I would like to get to know you just like you get to know me a little bit every time you tune in to this podcast. And if you're looking for the show notes for this podcast, you can find them at all the W's, socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/231. And of course, all my guest links will be in on that link as well. Before I get started on this week's episode, did you listen to last week's episode at all? It was inspired by the big small business survey that I did last year with some amazing other small business or big business owners. And they were my thoughts around what are the best ways to grow your business in 2023. If you haven't listened to that, then go back there and have a listen, because it is a good one to tune into. You will find that one at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/230, or of course, wherever you get your podcasts. Otherwise, let's head into today's episode. Like I said, I have a guest, and I'm pretty excited to be chatting with her. Her name is Nicole Stewart, and she's going to help us notice and dissolve some of our stresses and talk about boundaries and work-life balance. Over the last 11 years, Nicole Stewart has coached, mentored, and led workshops for thousands of women, supporting them to create their deeply satisfying lives, combining their experience in elite-level equestrian sports and training in spiritual and somatic coaching, facilitation, life and business coaching, and so much more. Nicole's clients, are business owners, corporate executives, medical professionals, athletes, and other women working in high stress and high pressure environments. It's great to have this chat with Nicole. I'm going to leave this here and let Nicole explain who she is, what she does, and leave you with lots and lots of gold as you listen to this episode. So without further delay, here's Nicole. Hey, Nicole, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This is going to be such a great interview. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jen. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to connect with you and hopefully share some really valuable stuff for your listeners.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be so valuable. But for my amazing listener who perhaps doesn't know Nicole Stewart or perhaps only knows a little bit, can you tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yep, I'd love to. So I am Nicole Stewart, and I'm a performance and lifestyle consultant for ambitious and high-achieving women. So I work with successful women and support them to create deeply satisfying lives. And my clients are women who are in high pressure and high stress environments. So I work with a lot of business owners, a lot of medical professionals like dentists and radiographers, executives and athletes, women who have things that are important to them that they're creating in the world, but who are interested in having a more nourishing experience of their path to that success, whatever it is that they're trying to create. So they want to have better work-life balance. They are worried about burning out. They are noticing that the stress that is generated through their work in the world is trickling down into their relationship with their partners and children, and that they're not having the lived experience of satisfaction and pleasure and enjoyment of life that they'd really like to be experiencing. So
Yeah, despite the fact they probably love what they do.
absolutely, absolutely, and I think that it's so much more accepted today to pursue doing a job or a business that you are really genuinely passionate about, and so people are doing stuff that they love, and sometimes that can be a bit of a trap, because it's like, oh, I love this, I'm just going to keep doing it, I'm just going to do more of it, I'm going to pour myself into this pursuit or this endeavor, this business that I'm creating. And sometimes, if that's done in a boundaryless way, if that's done in an unsustainable way, then it can come back and bite you in the backside a little bit.
Quite,
Yes.
I would say. And I think,
Yeah.
you've probably described most small business owners who came up with this entrepreneurial idea and went, that's my passion. That's what I'm going to do
Yeah.
for a business, and went all in and realized, as you and I, and I'm sure my listener is well aware, that small business is really tough.
It's
Really
really
tough.
hard.
And it's very time consuming, and the buck stops with you, and la 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 la, etc., etc., etc. How have you seen the your business or your clients change with COVID? Like, I don't mention COVID much on my podcast, but I really would be interested to know what you've seen from a coaching perspective.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, it's been a really fascinating blend. I've had a lot of my clients who were in corporate or employee arrangements who have all of a sudden had a lot more free time because they're working from home.
Yeah.
And they've been utilizing that free time to start their small businesses on the side. So there's been this like, oh my gosh, I've got all of this spaciousness. I'm not having to do a commute anymore. And so I'm going to pursue these other things that have sort of had on the back burner for a while. And with my business clients, it's been a real blend of people with teams navigating the new blended sort of remote working environment, and how do we sustain synergy and team culture while we're not seeing each other in the physical form? How do we continue to experience connectedness amongst our team and a sense of belonging, which ultimately contributes to productivity? It contributes to like participation of team members, because when somebody's sitting in their home, they're tapping away at their office, they're distracted by the laundry or by their kids or whatever it is that they've got going on, which we all do, and you're less connected to the mission of the business because you're not sitting around a whole bunch of other people who are also working towards the same thing. That has created some disengagement.
Yeah, right.
Which has been really interesting for my clients that have had teams to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And the really interesting one actually has been with a lot of people working in the hospital system and with dental businesses, where they've had all of this extra layer of expense to navigate and time to navigate, because they're changing their PPEs between each client, and there's been all of these other considerations that have just come in and then been layered on top of already, all of the challenges that you already face as a business owner. I'm just going to stand up for a second and close my window because I'm hearing some construction in the background, and I
can't hear a thing.
You can't?
No.
Okay, that's really good. Great.
No,
okay.
Can't hear a thing. So you must have
Awesome.
a good mic that's blocking out lots of different
leave
sound. Yeah, but if it's ruining your concentration, feel free.
No, I was more concerned about the recording. It's all good.
No, all good. Have you seen burnout become more prevalent? Or I suppose, obviously if you're dealing with people in the health departments and that sort of thing, the answer is going to be yes. But for other small business owners, have you seen stress higher or lower over the last couple of years? Which is a
I would
really
say
silly question. You probably can't generalize, but I thought I'd ask it anyway.
no, it's a worthwhile question, and the funny answer is both. And what I mean by that is that I haven't seen very many people take what I would describe as being like a middle path through this time. I've had clients either absolutely thrive and have the best couple of years of their working life ever and been like, oh wow, this has been wonderful, what a gift, or really struggle, really
Yeah.
need all the extra support and resource that they can get. You know, people retiring from their career in the hospital systems and going, oh my gosh, I can't be part of this anymore, this is so stressful, that
Yeah.
it's sort of driven them to need to do entire career changes. So it's really been quite polarized, one or the other.
Yeah, right. That's really interesting. I thought it was funny, not funny, haha, but funny,
Yeah.
interesting. Before when you made a comment how people had more time on their hands, so they started a side hustle. There really is a particular person and personality who does that, isn't it? It's just like, oh my God, I've got time. What am I going to do with it? Oh, I'm going to start a brand new business rather than perhaps taking some downtime and chillaxing and doing, I don't know, gardening or something like that. But it really,
Yeah.
I've seen it so much in my coaching and my,
Yeah.
even just in my social media and things like that, people changing and, yeah, sort of swapping what they're doing in their business and pivoting, that beautiful word
Mm.
that the pandemic gave us. But do you have any thoughts on, like, because you deal with women in high stress and that are
Mm.
overachievers, do you
Yes.
feel that they've kind of gone, oh, I need to achieve?
Yeah, and you know, often when people are wired to get a sense of self from the external creations, like the world, the external world creation, so the results that they're generating, whether that be financial results or like business percentage growth or whatever it is that they're striving for, when people get a sense of validation and a sense of like, I experience myself as powerful, and I'm using that as an example, like if I am somebody who desires to feel powerful, and the way that I have learned to get that experience of power is through the creation of uh, high performance results, then I'm going to look for opportunities to do that totally unconsciously, because I am
Mm,
seeking a sense of like, I want to experience myself as powerful. And that's different for everybody, right? Everybody has different
yes.
internal motivators of like, how do I desire to feel? And then there's the whole extra layer below that of like, where is that coming from? But people who are high achievers, you could call them, or those like A-type personalities, that are hungry for success in the world, are going to look for those opportunities regardless of what circumstances are going on. And that can be a really healthy, wonderful thing, and it can also be a bit of an unhealthy uh, crutch or coping mechanism even.
Mm,
And neither of those are said with any judgment at all, but just the interest of like, oh, that's interesting, I've got this
yeah.
motivation to succeed, I've got this motivation to create results and to tick one goal off and then be thinking about the next thing immediately without letting myself stop and go, oh, that was so fun. And is that genuinely coming from a place of passion and fullness and enthusiasm? Or is that coming from a place of, I need to do this thing so that I can feel okay about
Mm,
myself?
yeah. And
And so
such an
it's, yeah.
individual thing, isn't
Mm,
it? Absolutely.
yeah.
I want to switch gears a little bit because there's
Sure.
one question that I really wanted to ask you, because
Mm,
you talk about, dealing with women in high stress environments and
mhm,
very high achieving women, and there's
mhm.
this whole work life balance. I know you've said
Ooh.
it a couple of times and I've been sort of wanting to put the question in but hadn't really found the time to put the question in. So
Perfect.
does work life balance exist?
What a great question. I believe that balance is inherently an illusion.
Yeah.
Um, and that it's sort of one of those things, in the way that we're told that we should be able to get rid of our cellulite by all of the silly adverts that you get on Instagram, that being fed the idea that there is this ideal balanced place that your life should exist inside of all the time, and that if you're not achieving that, you're failing, is rubbish.
Mm.
And so I want to say that as a truth to hold. And I also want to say that I believe that we have bought into a culture and society where productivity and creating results and being determined and hardworking are glorified so in really huge ways over a lived experience of pleasure and happiness and slowness and presence.
Mm. Yeah.
And both of those things I believe are true. Yeah, that there is no such thing as balance, and we live in a world that really glorifies productivity.
Yeah.
So I'll say those two things, and then my answer to your question is that I believe our job as individual women is to learn to really truly attune to what is actually true for us, what we actually desire, not what we think we should be doing and what is right, but what we actually want to be doing and what actually brings us joy. Would it really truly bring you joy to leave one day of the weekend entirely work free to just spend with your family? Great, do that. Would it be in your joy and delight to, when I'm seeing clients, I keep all my client sessions to 2 days a week.
Yeah.
Because then I get 3 days a week on my business.
Yes.
And I can take a long weekend occasionally if I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is truly right for you as an individual, beyond the idea that you should be productive, beyond the idea that you should work a certain amount of hours, or that you know, that like the guilt that I hear business owners talk about when they're not working is astounding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And my invitation for anyone who's saying like work-life balance meh is that meh really coming from a place of like, I'm so lit up and passionate to be doing this, or is it that I feel really guilty when I'm not doing this? And that nobody is going to fight for you to have more time for yourself, more time for your children, more time for your marriage, other than you. And like, nobody's going to fight for that for you. You've got to choose what's right. And our job as business owners, and we owe this to our businesses as well, because if you work in your business long term in a way that is unsustainable, where you are overgiving and actually working harder than what is true for you, you will burn out eventually. We all know that that's not sustainable. And so you owe it to yourself and to your business and to your family, I believe, to really listen deeply to yourself about what you actually desire and how you actually want to shape your business and your life. Because one of the reasons we all got into business in the first place was to be able to have some power and some control over the way that we work, right? As opposed to just showing up in another environment where we're dictated and told what to do.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. I always giggle at that. There's a meme I often see on social media. It's just like, you know, I didn't want to work 40 hours a week, so I went into business for myself, and now I work 24/7. Like, it's like, yeah, you know,
totally.
it's so true. So true.
And so it's a bit of a, you know, I know women who are working really hard in their businesses and then have great boundaries and switch off when they're not at work. And that brings them a tremendous amount of joy, and it's right for them. And I champion and celebrate those women.
Yeah.
And then I know also women who like to have a lot of free time and space, and, you know, maybe have young children and they're only working 4 or 5 hours a day, and they've found ways to make that work for them in their businesses.
Yeah.
And those are, you know, neither of them is right or wrong.
It's what's
And
right for them.
It's about what's right for you. That's exactly right. And that then brings in that whole adventure of undressing from the conditioning that you've been sold about, you know, how hard you should be working. And particularly if you've transitioned from a role where you were working 40 hours a week for somebody else and then stepped into a business, there can be this expectation of, well, that's that's the done thing. You know, I work 5 days a week. I work hard, and then it can creep into your weekends and your evenings. And
Yeah.
so,
And certainly comparisonitis, I see that. I even see myself do it occasionally. I look at other people who are in a similar space to me and I think they're doing so much more. Like there was an email, you know, keep your friends close, keep your enemies close. And not that I have any enemies. I certainly believe in abundance. You know, there's enough work for everybody out there. But, you know, I got an email probably only 2 months ago from someone who I would say is slightly competitive to me, you know, offers the similar things and that's, and that person had like 4 new programs coming out before the end of the year. And I've already written off the end of the year. I'm kind of like, nah, nothing more from me. Like, you know, I'm ready for this year to end. And it was kind of like, maybe I should. So I got out my colored pens and I got out my books and my paper and I started scribbling some stuff down. And I spent an hour going down a rabbit hole before I went, no.
Wait a second.
That's
Hold
not
on a
what we
minute.
decided. Shut the book, put the pens away and, you know, go with your own plan. But sometimes it is, you look, you know, you come out of corporate jobs where you've got boundaries and you've got hours and you've got teams and then you go into business for yourself and then you kind of, you know, I do find that people, and I do it myself, like I said, are looking at it's like, oh, should I be doing more? Oh, they're doing heaps more than I am, or they're on social media more than I am, or they're doing more lives than I am. It's just like, no, this is your own race. And it's hard to recognize, but I think it's important. You know, it took me an hour to recognize it, but eventually I did come back to the surface and go, no, bright shiny object, Jennifer Ann, stop it.
Jennifer Ann, that's wonderful. My middle name's Ann as well, and I used to get Nicole Ann when I was growing up. It's like, oh, I know I've really done something wrong. I've got Nicole
exactly Nick, this has been such a great chat. Thank you so much for coming on and having a bit of a chat to us around all of this. I'm sure my listener is completely fascinated. If they wanted to get in contact with you, where is the best place to have a chat with you or to follow along your business journey?
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. So my website is nicolestewart.coach and you'll find my blog there. I run a regular masterclass and there's all sorts of ways to explore working with me. If it interests you, you'll find them all there.
Beautiful. And do you hang out on a particular social media platform more than anything else?
I am on LinkedIn. So you can search for me, Nicole Stewart, at LinkedIn. On LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, beautiful. I will have those links in the show notes. Thank you so much, Nick. This has been so great. And I'm sure that I'll have to have you on again because I think this discussion could go on for hours.
I'm so up for that. So let me know. And thank you so much, Jen. I've had a lot of fun.
Pleasure. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that podcast episode. Nicole was so good and I loved her advice and her explanations around stress and work-life balance. I think we're a little bit more aligned than I think as far as work-life balance goes. If you've got some questions though, Nicole is in my Facebook group called Like-Minded Business Owners. So hop in there, tag Nicole, tag me if you have any questions or comments. If you did love this podcast, then I would really love you to take 30 seconds out of your day and leave me a rating and a review if you can do that where you're listening to this podcast. It's a goal of mine this year to reach more people with my podcast, and you can help me achieve that by giving me 30 seconds of your time and leaving me that review. Thank you so much in advance. Otherwise, I'll see you next week on the podcast for episode 232. In the meantime, if we aren't being social on social, then come and find me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Would love to get to know you and your business. But whatever you do, remember my small business peep, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.